Imagine being told that the war is over, but you don't believe it. You hide deep in the jungle, surviving on almost nothing, convinced that enemy forces are trying to trick you. Months pass, then years, then decades, and when you finally walk out of the jungle, you discover the world has completely changed. This is the unbelievable true story of Hiroo Onoda, the Japanese soldier who continued fighting for 29 years after World War II had already ended. In 1944, as Japan was losing ground during World War II, a young intelligence officer named Hiroo Onoda was sent to the remote Philippine island of Lubang. But Onoda wasn't sent there to win a traditional battle. His mission was different. He was ordered to carry out guerrilla warfare, sabotage enemy operations, gather intelligence, and never surrender. His commanding officer gave him one final order: do not surrender. Do not take your own life. Keep fighting until you are relieved. For Onoda, this wasn't just a suggestion, it was his duty. In 1945, Japan surrendered. World War II was over. Millions of soldiers returned home. Families reunited. Countries began rebuilding. But deep in the jungle of Lubang, Hiroo Onoda didn't know any of that. When Allied forces dropped leaflets telling Japanese soldiers the war had ended, Onoda believed they were fake. He thought it was a psychological trick designed to make him give up. So he stayed hidden. Along with a few other soldiers, he continued his mission. Living in the jungle was brutal. Onoda and his men stole food from local farms, hunted animals, and moved constantly to avoid being captured. They built shelters. They studied the terrain. They waited for the Japanese military to return. But the years kept passing. One by one, the other soldiers disappeared. Some surrendered. Some were killed. Eventually, Onoda was alone. But he refused to believe the war was over. For nearly 3 decades, he lived by himself in the wilderness, convinced that one day his orders would change. Over the years, people tried to find him. Search parties entered the jungle. More leaflets were dropped. Messages were sent. Even photographs of his family were shown to him. But Onoda believed it was all an enemy trick. There was only one person he would listen to: his former commanding officer. Suzuki tracked down Onoda's old commander, who was now living a completely different life. He was no longer a soldier. He was working as a bookseller. The commander traveled to Lubang and finally gave Onoda the order he had been waiting for. The mission is over. You can surrender. On March 9, 1974, Hiroo Onoda walked out of the jungle, still wearing his old military uniform, still carrying his rifle, still believing he had only just completed his mission. When Onoda returned to Japan, he became famous around the world. Some people saw him as a symbol of incredible loyalty and determination. Others questioned the tragic consequences of a soldier who had been unable to accept that the world had moved on. But one thing is certain: Hiroo Onoda's story is one of the most unbelievable examples of survival, dedication, and the power of belief. A man who fought for a war that had already ended for 29 years. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more unbelievable true events from history.